Honda's wasting no time keeping things fresh. Today we have the 2019 Honda Pilot. This is the Elite trim and this thing is totally loaded. So for 2019 we've got some changes on the exterior design, features that are available on the interior, even how it drives. So let's take a look at this 2019 Honda Pilot and see exactly what it's got to offer. Thank you everybody so much for tuning in. So real quick before we start on this exterior, I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to Honda Cars of Rockwall in Rockwall, Texas. They were super generous to get this Honda Pilot ready for me. And if you're in the DFW area, please be sure to check them out or check them out online. For 2019, you will definitely see some changes up front here. Honda's got their new modern looking headlights, as you can see right there. So standard on all Pilots will be LED headlights that are actually LED low beams. On the Touring and Elite, you will get full LED headlights, including the high beams. And they have the LED daytime running light standard that runs around the headlight there. And on the EX trim, we even get LED fog lights, the EX trim and up. Still don't have LED turn signals, but pretty much everything else is LED. What do you think of this front end? It's not a whole lot different, but you can definitely see the differences. I want to know what you guys think. Please be sure to let me know. Also, one more thing with the headlights is automatic high beams are standard on every trim level. Coming around looking at the design of the Pilot here, it still has the same shape, the same character. Nothing has really changed much on the side. Wheels will start at 18 inches on the LX through the EXL, and then on the Touring and the Elite, you will get 20-inch wheels. What do you think of these wheels? Those will be on 245 width tires. We do have front vented disc brakes. The solid brakes are, or the rear brakes are solid discs, not vented. Door handles will be black on the base LX. Otherwise, you'll get body color, and then on the Touring and Elite, you will get chrome door handles. For 2019, Honda actually made some changes to these mirrors. So on the Touring and up, you will get memory mirrors with the reverse tilt function. They're also heated on the EX with LED turn signals. And on the Elite, they're power folding and auto dimming, which is actually a really nice feature when you got some bright headlights behind you. On the higher trims, you'll also see some more of the chrome treatment as some trim. On the Touring model and up, we do get the roof rails up there. One cool thing about the Pilot is it has noise cancellation. So it has acoustic glass depending on what trim level, and I'll talk about that more on our test drive. Coming around to the back, there are actually some changes made to these taillights. As you can see, they do look a little bit different. We have LED brake lights and LED reverse lights. Instead of an all red taillight in the back, you do have that white looking piece right there. And like I said, this is the Elite trim, which is only available with all-wheel drive. And you can barely see it in the bumper there, but there is one of the parking sonars. We do have those on the front and the rear on the Touring trim and up. And talking about safety, a couple things to know is Honda Sensing is now standard on every single trim level. That'll give us collision mitigation braking and warning, road departure with lane keeping assist, adaptive cruise control, and that is a full stop and go cruise control. Plus, if you want blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, that is now on the EX and up, which is different than the 2018 Pilot. And on top of that, we have rain sensing windshield wipers, which actually work pretty well. Let's go on ahead and check out the cargo space back here. So you'll get a power tailgate on the EX trim level and up. You can push a button under there. On the Touring, you'll actually get the hands-free option where you just kick your foot under the bumper in a designated spot and it will open right up for you hands-free. Up there, we do actually have a little handle to grab onto, plus a button for the power tailgate to lower it. So Honda does have a pretty cavernous cargo area. It will range from 16 cubic feet all the way up to 83.9 with the seats folded down, and there are actually slight variations depending on the trim level. But behind these seats right here, we do have a flat floor. This is actually kind of a high liftover right there. But one cool thing about this floor is, I'm gonna do this with one hand, so it might take a minute. You can pull this tab. First of all, there's some extra space up under here, and there's actually a spare tire under there as well. Some vehicles do not give you spare tires nowadays, so much appreciated with that. We can pull this down and slide it there so you have a deeper area. And that could be handy if you maybe have some stuff you don't want to roll around too much, or at least just kind of keep it down or something taller. But there's a little storage bin over there. There's a little hook right up there, a tie downs on each side and hooks, plus a little bit of a deeper storage area right there. So getting these seats up out of the way is pretty easy. on both sides, you have a split folding seat right here. Just pull that, the headrest will go down, it will release, and then you can just kick it up out of the way. And of course, if you have the load floor up, you will have a completely flat surface right there. Same thing with this side. And then there's a little lever you pull to fold those seats down. Pretty easy to do. It would be nice to maybe see on the Elite trim or the Touring trim, the higher trims, an actual power button option to fold them down. But still pretty easy to do in a big, wide, open space, tons of space. Honda does give us a nice key fob. This does feel pretty good and pretty substantial. Just your basic lock, unlock, remote start, and open your trunk. You can't pull a physical key out, and remote start is available all the way down at the EX trim level and up. It's a very basic system. To unlock it, you just slide your hand behind the door. Good to go with that. Then to lock it, there's a little button on here. Push that and you're good to go. All right, let's talk about these front seats. So on the base LX, you'll get manual cloth seats, and you'll get cloth seats to the EX trim level, but the EX trim level actually gives you 10-way power seats that include lumbar support. No matter what trim level you get though, the passenger seats are 4-way adjustable only. On this trim, they're 4-way power. And but the good thing is on the EX, you will get the heated seats, and then on the EXL, you will get the leather. Just like typical Hondas, the L kind of stands for leather. And then with those leather seats on the EXL, you will get memory settings, 2-position memory settings that I'll show you on the door. And then on this Elite trim level, we get heated, ventilated seats. They're perforated leather. They are comfortable. They're soft. They do have kind of just a low to moderate amount of bolstering, but I've been comfortable in these. I am actually a fan of these ratcheting armrests. I know some of you really don't like them, but I like how you have plenty of elbow space between you and your passengers when you have these armrests. I do think that these seats could be maybe a little bit more plush, especially on this Elite trim level. Just some better leather maybe, but they're still comfortable. With this steering wheel, it is manual adjustable. There's just one lever. You can go in and out with it, up and down with it, and it's got a pretty good range of motion. All right, we have made it inside of the Pilot. So starting out here on the door, we do get a soft touch surface up above. Not necessarily super padded, but it is padded and soft by your armrest. This does feel nice. We do have automatic driver and passenger windows just up front though. And on the EXL trim, you'll actually get 2-position memory seats right there. And this is a nice metal feeling door handle right there. So Honda does have some pretty good storage on their doors here. We do have a multiple tier system right there down below. And then this is actually bigger than you think. I can fit a good sized water bottle right there, plus our fuel door opener and a button to open up the rear lift gate. Go ahead and shut the door. Nice solid sound. That was actually a very impressive solid sound right there. So let's go ahead and start it up. Foot on the brake, push the button. Typical Honda chime. Now that we're inside the Pilot, you will find that the layout is still very familiar, just like the 2018 Pilot, but there are some changes, including a volume knob, which some of you will definitely appreciate. So with this steering wheel, we do get leather on the EXL trim and up, and it is a very soft steering wheel. There's not really any sport grips, but I do like the 4-spoke design, and it is a very supple feeling steering wheel. And on our particular model, we do have a heated steering wheel, which does feel quite nice. Among other steering wheel control buttons are buttons for our digital display up there that we will go over, voice controls with our Bluetooth and our phone hookups, cruise control settings, lane departure settings, all of that on the steering wheel here. Going just to the left of the steering wheel, we do have our mirror controls, even our button to fold our mirror in, which is a brand new feature, power folding mirrors. The Econ button for a little bit better economy when you're driving, traction control, the parking sonar for the front and the rear, lane departure, as well as the collision mitigation button right there to turn that stuff off or on. So let's take a look at this center information display. I was actually expecting this to be a little bit more than what it is. I mean, it shows you quite a bit of information, and I'll go through that here. So we can use our steering wheel to control all of this that we see here. I'm just going to scroll through all of these apps. So you can decide what you have on there, or what you want to see, what you don't want to see, and there's really quite a bit. I was just expecting a bit of a more extravagant digital display here, but you can truly see a lot of stuff on here, which is pretty nice. And then of course you do have the big digital speedometer as well as the tachometer right above there. That's kind of an interesting way to do that, but just like the Odyssey. And then the nice blue lighting that you have in the gauges, I think it looks pretty nice up here. As we make our way across the dash, you will find that the dash is a pretty nice material. Even this whole kind of darker piece, but down by your knee, this is hard plastic, so if your knee goes over there, that's something to keep in mind. But as we go over to the screen, starting on the base LX, it will be a 5-inch LCD screen. But once you get to the EX and up, like we have right here, you'll have an 8-inch color, full color touchscreen, just like this. And one addition is the volume knob, like I said, instead of all touch sensitive buttons, but it is a pretty responsive screen. There is really a lot that you can do, including the Wi-Fi hotspot. Your vehicle can be a mobile hotspot, which is quite nice, plus Honda Link. Honda Link gives you a lot of information, and that will be on the Touring model and up. Plus this cabin talk is pretty cool, just like in the Odyssey. So with the Touring model, or excuse me, with the EXL, you will get cabin talk, and what it does is basically when you speak, you can turn it on, and when you speak, depending on the trim level, if you have the EXL and the Touring, it will play through their headphones, but on the Elite, it will actually play through the rear speakers, so you'll know whether or not your passengers or your kids will hear you. Honda also gives us a cabin control app that you can use, or passengers can use, to control various functions in the cabin. The screen is nice and customizable, and there's a lot of vehicle functions you can customize, but for example, you can tap, hold, and then drag, kind of like a phone, to place things where you want them for your convenience. And even on the base LX model, all the way up to, I believe, the EXL, you'll get a 7-speaker system that includes a subwoofer, but once you get to the Touring and the Elite, like we have here, you'll get a 590 watts 10-speaker system with the subwoofer. Then as we move down on the EX trim level and up, you'll get tri-zone climate control. So that includes you, your passenger, plus your rear passengers. And it's a very nice, easy to use system. You just use these toggles. They do feel solid. Everything is laid out real nice and easy to use. We do have our Bluetooth option right here for our rear entertainment system. 3-tiered heated and ventilated seats. Can't have them on at the same time, but for you and your passenger. Then as we go down, we even get a wireless charging mat, which is on the Elite trim, which is right there. Otherwise, you do have a nice textured surface to store some items next to a 12-volt power outlet and a fast charging USB port right there. Now going to our shifter, let me first put it in reverse. We do have a pretty nice backup camera. The only thing different on the LX base model is you won't have dynamic lines. It'll be like that the whole time, but on the rest of them, you'll have dynamic lines. And you can have multiple views here, which is awesome. So this is a top-down view. You can have a wide angle or a straight back. Plus, you can even get rid or add your parking sonar, and it'll show you that right there. And then the rear cross traffic alert button. The blind spot monitor indicators are right here instead of in the mirror. Back to the shifter. This push button shifter actually only goes with the 9-speed transmission, so the Touring and up. Otherwise, you'll get a normal shifter and a leather wrap shifter on the EXL trim level. So it's easy to use, but it is a little bit interesting and kind of difficult to get used to, or at least to kind of get a feel for it. But you pull back for reverse. Neutral you'll probably hardly ever use. Push it twice, push the D twice in order to get to S, which is sport mode. Just push it for park. It's easy to use. We do have the traction management control since we have all-wheel drive. Push this button and that'll show up on the screen. Normal, snow, mud, sand, and the powertrain, the engine transmission, will kind of change things up depending on what kind of traction you need. Plus we do have the idle stop button right here, and thank goodness you can actually turn it off. As you know, I always like to test our cup holders, so my large bottle does fit in here. Pretty typical Honda cup holders. They're not actually adjustable, which would be nice to see, maybe some little inserts in them, but they are wide and accommodating, so I kind of wonder about a narrow item. One cool thing here is Honda has a really massive center console. You can just have it like this, where you can just set stuff on top of here, or you can slide it out of the way. And there is a light in here. It's not on right now, but there is a light. We do have a fast charging USB port, a 12-volt power outlet, and just a big space overall, plus a sliding tray, just like you'll see in some other Hondas. And one thing I believe that I saw when I was reading is, just like the 2018 model, we do have these ratcheting armrest. So for example, you want it right there, it'll stay, get it up out of the way. But I believe these are a tiny bit wider for the 2019 model, and they've been comfortable for me. They're very soft. I can get used to them easily. Moving up above on the Elite trim level, we do have LED map lights on both sides. Always nice to have bright LED lights. Plus, we do have an auto-dimming rearview mirror with our HomeLink garage controls button right there. The auto-dimming mirror will be on the EXL trim level and up. All models, even with the sunroof or the moonroof, will get a sunglass holder, and on the EX and up, you get a conversation mirror so you can see what's going on back there. The LX base model is the only one that doesn't have that. Plus, we do have a moonroof, and actually, it's a standard size moonroof right here, but if you look back there, there's another moonroof back there. So the panoramic roof, which includes that rear moonroof, is on the Elite trim level. Otherwise, you'll have this normal moonroof on the EXL trim level. And then to top things off on the inside, we do have ambient lighting, which of course you cannot see right now, but Honda will give you some nice blue ambient lighting on the Touring trim and up. Then as we move over to the glove box, this is lockable. It's soft opening. It is plastic on the inside, you know, kind of a traditional size glove box there. Up at these visors, we do have a vanity mirror with lights on the side, plus the entire mirror does slide out just like that, a pretty good distance. One thing I would like to see different with this screen is to actually have an around view 360 monitor. We just have the backup camera, which is a great backup camera. Another thing would maybe be, I know they added the volume knob, but I would still like to see a tuning knob, or, you know, maybe have this screen a little bit more tilted towards me or towards down, I guess, because it is slanted up quite a bit. Let's turn around and take a look at the visibility. So there are some pretty big windows on here. That back window is actually quite large, and not too bad for visibility out of a big SUV like this. So we've made it to the back seat of the Pilot, and Honda really excels back here. Now, one thing to know, in the Elite trim level, captain's chairs like this are standard. They're available on the Touring model. Otherwise, you will have a bench seat going across with 3 seats. But with the captain's chairs, I am comfortable here. We still get these armrests right here in the middle that can fold down and up. I'm 5'9", and I have really good headroom right here in the second row, even though we do have this moonroof which can take up some of the space for our heads. I have good leg space, good foot space under this seat, and I have this passenger seat about right where I would sit, and it's even with the driver's seat for comparison. So I am definitely comfortable here. These are the perforated seats that we do get in the front, and on the Elite trim level right here, we get heated seats for these captain's chairs. And then on the Touring, if you go for the captain's chairs, those will be heated as well. Another cool thing about these seats is they actually, even the captain's chairs, actually slide forward and backwards. So when I go all the way forward, my knees are up against the seat now. But when I'm all the way back, tons of space. And these seats even recline somewhat, so no trouble getting comfortable back here. I could literally probably spend all day back here. These seats are about the same as the front. They're not as plush as they could be, but they are still fairly soft and comfortable. Now come on back, let me show you a closer look back here. So like I showed you guys, I have this seat in the furthest back position, and I've got quite a bit of leg and foot space. If I scoot it halfway, still got a good amount of space. And then right there, at the very closest point, I can't quite sit there. But both seats do get map pockets. We do have rear air vents. And then, like I said, on this trim, we do have the heated seats. And then the tri-zone climate control, like I said earlier. Plus, we do have an HDMI output right there for our 10.2-inch screen, which is on the EXL trim level and up. So that is pretty awesome. Also next to that are the headphone controls. We do have an actual plug-in right here, which is nice. Plus, 2 fast-charging USB ports right there. And in the middle, there's literally no space no hump right here. So there's good foot space right there when you have your bench seat. Couple cup holders right here. A nice textured area to set some stuff or store some stuff. And then on the door, we get 2 cup holders, nice soft material for our armrest, couple storage bins right there. But this upper part of the door is actually hard plastic, unlike the front that was soft. But overall, a very nice place to be with our panoramic roof. You can see how far back that goes. What do you say we hop into that third row? All right, let's go ahead and check out that third row. So it's super easy to get into the third row. Of course, Honda still has the one-touch button, so you go ahead and push that. And the seat will automatically slide forward for you. You can push it forward a little bit more. There are a couple steps right here to get in. It's actually a pretty wide opening. This is quite easy to get into. So in order to get that seat back, we do have to pull it back, and it will slide to where it previously was. And I had it set about right in the middle of its track. Not as far back as it could go, but not as far forward. And at 5'9", I can actually sit behind that seat. If it was all the way back, I probably couldn't fit, but not too bad at all. And this is technically supposed to be 3 seats back here, which it is, but this middle seat is very narrow, so definitely for kids, of course. I don't believe this is actually a center folding armrest. No, it is not, but not too bad back here. We do have a few little bottle holders, even some vents right there. Definitely a nice place to be. And not to mention, on top of that, I can actually sit up tall without my head touching, and I have a few inches to spare. And it is just as easy to get out. Another one-touch push right there, and that seat will just kick right out of your way. All right, so under the hood of the Honda Pilot, things have not really changed except for the transmission, which I will go over in just a little bit, but we do have the same iVTEC 3.5-liter V6, which puts out 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. And there's options of 6-speed or 8-speed automatic transmissions. You will get the 6-speed all the way up to the EXL, but on the Touring and the Elite, you will get the 9-speed. And there have been some known problems or complaints with the 9-speed transmissions in the past, and Honda actually retuned it for smoother shifts and more. And I'll talk about that in the test drive as we get going. Front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive is available. All-wheel drive is standard on the Elite trim. Otherwise, it's an option on the lower trim levels. And when we go to talk about miles per gallon, with the 9-speed on our trim in the Touring, you will get 20 in the city, 27 on the highway for front-wheel drive, and 19 and 26 when you have the all-wheel drive models. If you do have the 6-speed, you will drop just a bit for your miles per gallon. You will get up to 19 in the city and 27 on the highway. But if you have all-wheel drive, you'll be able to tow up to 5,000 pounds. Honda actually enhanced the idle stop function compared to the 2018 model. It's supposed to be a more seamless and smoother transition when it starts from being stopped. All right, everyone, we are on the test drive portion here, my favorite part as always. So my first impression with this Pilot is that it feels the same as the last generation. But I reviewed the 2018 model, and I did not get to do an actual test drive portion to film. But just sitting in here, it feels the same. But one difference that Honda made to the 9-speed transmission on the Touring and the Elite is that it's retuned for better drivability and smoother shifts. But it also, under light or moderate acceleration, will actually start you in second gear, unless you're in sport mode or unless you are using one of your traction management systems. Or if you get on it or floor it, it's going to start you in first gear. But that will give you a little bit of a smoother start, smoother transition into your acceleration. So I just got on a road that's got a rougher texture to it. It's a louder road in most vehicles because I want to see how quiet it is in here. The last generation had acoustic glass as well, and we have acoustic glass on the windshield on the EXL trim level and up. And then once you get to the Touring and the Elite, you actually get acoustic glass on these side windows, and it's not loud in here. I wouldn't necessarily call it super quiet, but it is a pretty nice, comfortable place to be in terms of noise. The braking for the Pilot, initially, it does feel a little bit soft, but once you put your foot into it a little bit, you do get a pretty nice bite to it, and it gets you stopped pretty well. This is a big vehicle, so I would like to see some ventilated brakes in the back, but let's go ahead and see how the get up and go is. We're just in normal mode, and it's got some very good power. You definitely get some good power from this V6. Unlike some of the turbos that you might see in some other vehicles, you get the power kind of in a linear way. You get more power as you go. And I do definitely appreciate having a naturally aspirated engine like this. Up to cruising speed now, we're going about 50 miles an hour on a smooth road, and it's comfortable. It is pretty quiet, and it's definitely a nice vehicle to drive. I would have to say that the ride and handling for the Pilot are probably its strong suits when it comes to driving. The steering feel is a little bit loose, just a little bit, but it's definitely pretty responsive once you actually start to turn the wheel. And with this all-wheel drive, you can actually see where the torque is going to all 4 wheels, which is pretty nice to see. With some moderate acceleration, it does seem a little hesitant to want to actually drop down, and that's probably partially due to the, wanting to have better fuel economy, which you do get good fuel economy in here, but once it drops down and it delivers the power for you, you've got some good acceleration. All right, it is wet out here, and I apologize for the rain, but we're gonna go around a turn here. And like I said, we do have the all-wheel drive, and it will actually torque vector and give you better control. But going around this turn, we've got some pretty good, good feedback from the steering wheel for being a pretty big SUV like this. I didn't really notice much in terms of body roll or anything like that. It was, it was pretty pleasing to go around. The steering is definitely lighter than the Mazda CX-9 that I will be reviewing right after this. Let's see just how good this turning radius is. That was pretty good. That was pretty impressive. If you have to do a U-turn, that really wasn't a problem at all. Now I'm gonna put it in sport mode, so you push the S on the transmission, and here we go. It'll get up and go for a big vehicle, and in sport mode it is holding the RPMs a little bit higher, so going around this turn, it's going to give you that power a little bit better being in sport mode, considering the fact that it's holding the RPMs a little bit better. It's definitely not a vehicle that you want to throw around and toss around, some turns, but it gives you confidence. So I got it out of sport mode now. I'm going to give it another moderate acceleration. No troubles kicking down that time. And it gets you up to speed pretty quick, not even floored. So passing power should be good with this big V6. It puts out pretty good power for the class. Not quite as much as some competitors, but still pretty good. So we are obviously in the elite trim level, like I've said several times, which is the top of the line, and it is just fully loaded. But the EX is an excellent value. EXL is a great value if you have to have leather. Once you get to touring and elite, you definitely get some of the goodies. But if I was going to get a Pilot, I would probably skip the base model because you miss out on some stuff like this touchscreen especially, and just go straight for the EX. But you still get Honda Sensing Standard, which is always nice. You get the blind spot with rear cross traffic on the EX trim level, so you don't even have to step up very much. You can get all-wheel drive on any trim level. Definitely a pretty good value from Honda. There's tons of space back here. As you can see, I fit in the 3rd row at 5'9", and that's awesome. I want to know what you like about it, and comparing it to some other vehicles. I have reviewed the Highlander, the Traverse. I am in progress reviewing the Mazda CX-9 for some other 3 rows. And this definitely has its ups and downs compared to those. It doesn't drive as well as the CX-9. It's bigger and more spacious than the Highlander. There's definitely a lot to like about it, and it's a very practical vehicle. That is going to conclude this review. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. Please be sure to check out some of my other videos, as I post videos every single week, and I'll catch you guys next time.